What has gone wrong for the New York Mets in 2023? Let's talk about it. Well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm WattUK99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. So, as I'm recording this, the New York Mets are about to lose to the San Diego Padres. It's currently 6-0 going into the 7th inning. There is next to no chance this team is coming back with that many runs, meaning they're going to head into the All-Star break with a 42-48 record. They're going to be 6 or 7 games, something like that, out of the last wild card spot with several days off. And it is absolutely remarkable thinking about last year when this team won 101 games, and that's including the infamous dip in September when they blew the division lead. So what has really happened? I mean, this is largely the same team that we had last year, that the New York Mets had last year. What has changed? Well, I've got 8 statistics. I'm going to call them the excruciating 8. That's right, the excruciating 8 statistics that break down the absolute downfall of the New York Mets. And no stone will be left unturned as I go through this team. The first thing I want to talk about is Max Scherzer. Now, I did an absolute rant on him last year after he pitched like absolute garbage in the playoffs against San Diego, coming off an even less than garbage performance against the Atlanta Braves, which played a big role in the Mets blowing this division. I said this guy was done. I called him a choke artist, and I called him a fraud. Well, he has turned out to be exactly that. And he has been the same pitcher this year that we saw in the last 2 games last year against Atlanta and San Diego when it counted. The difference was in 2022 when Scherzer actually pitched, he was effective. He was an effective pitcher last season. But even when Scherzer was at his best, you look at his years in Arizona, Detroit, Washington, he would frequently dominate the opposition. But a lot of times the opposition would get a home run in on him. Typically it would be a solo shot. You know, I still have memories of the Mets, I believe, going back to back against him on Sunday Night Baseball. I think it was back to back, one of the two. But Scherzer has always been a little bit prone to the home run ball. Well, here's statistic number 1. Last year, Scherzer pitched 145 innings for the Mets. He allowed 13 home runs. That's really not that bad. That's basically 1 home run every 11 innings. This year, 88 innings pitched, including today, including this absolutely embarrassing start against San Diego. 88 innings pitched, he's allowed 18 home runs. That's more than 1 home run every 5 innings. This guy is done, finished, and he's not going anywhere because 1, he has a no trade clause. 2, he's got the opt-in next year, and if I'm Max Scherzer, why am I declining this? Because ain't no way in hell some team's going to pay me $40 million to pitch. Why would I ever leave? There's only 2 possibilities that I could see with Max Scherzer realistically in 2024. He's either a Met or he retires. I hope that Scherzer has enough pride within him, enough decency within him, and he actually cares enough about his rapidly dissolving legacy to say, I suck, I'm not as good as I used to be anymore. Thanks for the memories. I apologize to every Mets fan. Yeah, Max, when you go to the Hall of Fame, don't count on any orange and blue jerseys showing up to celebrate your induction into Cooperstown. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'm going to stay with the pitching for a little bit, and it's the strikeout to walk ratio. The Mets pitching, you know, it has really been maligned this season, and losing Edwindiaz, that had a lot to do with it. Losing Jacob deGrom, same thing. You had the reliability of Chris Bassett. Taijuan Walker was pretty good last year, but you also lost Seth Lugo and Trevor Williams in the bullpen. And one of the biggest statistics I've seen with the pitching staff is the strikeout to walk ratio. So in 2022, the Mets had a 3.66 strikeout to walk ratio. The higher the number, the better. For instance, if you had 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, 9 divided by 1 is 9. So you have a 9 strikeout to walk ratio. So last year, Jacob deGrom had a team high with 12.75. Now, he only pitched 64 innings, but he had 102 strikeouts to 8 walks. Unbelievable. This year, the team high, it's actually Max Scherzer with a 4.39 strikeout to walk ratio. Everybody else is doing worse. But last year, you know what Scherzer's strikeout to walk ratio was? 7.21. He's gone from 7.2 down to 4.3. And to put it into real numbers for you, last year Scherzer had 173 strikeouts and 24 walks. This year, he's already up to 23 walks and 101 strikeouts. So he has had way, way less control, and that has gone a long way with giving up the home run ball. Because as these batters get into better and better counts, they're looking for a pitch to hit, and Scherzer no longer has the stuff to deceive them. So that's number 2. Number 3 is this bullpen. Like I said, they lost a lot of players. Last year, this bullpen had a 2.92 ERA. This year, 4.16. Eesh. Moving on, because that just depresses me. Now I'm going to flip and talk about this offense. The only real changes you have with this offense, you changed the catcher. James McCann's gone, and there wasn't a single Mets fan who couldn't wait to run him out of town. And so initially you were starting with Omar Narvaez. He gets hurt, misses a bunch of time. Eventually Francisco Alvarez comes up. Fantastic power, no doubt about it. But his hitting, it still needs a whole lot of refining. He goes in prolonged slumps. He looked absolutely pathetic today against Joe Musgrove in big spots with a double play and a strikeout on 3 pitches when he had such a big opportunity, to get the Mets back in this game, and he couldn't do it. But the team batting average has really gone into the tank. And I'm going to give you the team stats first, but then I'm going to mention a couple of players. Okay, so last year the Mets hit .259 as a team. That was second in Major League Baseball, only behind the Toronto Blue Jays. So .259 had them second. This year, they're hitting .242 as a team, which is only 20th as of right now, tied with a couple of teams as of this recording. So they have gone down 18 spots in Major League Baseball. And just look at some of the players who have dropped their batting average. Markcanha down 24 points from last year. Pete Alonso down 58 points from last year. Starlingmarte, we'll get to him in a moment, down 36 points. Francisco Lindor, good a season as he's had with power and driving runners in and playing defense. I give Lindor credit. Should have been an all-star, but his batting average is down 37 points, and that's after 2 hot weeks. But Jeff McNeil is the most damning one of all, down 74 points, and that was my number 4 statistic. I'm jumping right into Jeff McNeil right now with my number 5 statistic, and we're going to talk about OPS, on base plus slugging. Last year, Jeff McNeil had a .836 on base plus slugging, which is really impressive considering McNeil is not really a power hitter. He was second on the team. This year, he has a .657 OPS. That's 10th on the team. That's worse than Daniel Vogelback. Daniel Vogelback has a higher OPS than Jeff McNeil. What were the odds I could have had in Vegas that was going to happen? No, I don't think there's a single Met who has disappointed me more this year than Jeff McNeil. Coming right off his new contract extension. I'm glad he'll be able to afford his tee times because right now his golf game is a hell of a lot better than his ability to hit a baseball. So that's number 5. Number 6, I'm staying with the OPS, but we're going to talk about Starling Marte. When Marte got hurt last year, when he had his core muscle injury, which I believe eventually required double groin surgery, the Mets were never the same. Eduardo Escobar tried to carry this offense on his back. He couldn't do it. And when the Mets lost Marte, when they lost his speed, his defense, and his ability to hit the ball, they were never the same. And Marte has not been the same player this year at all. Last year, his OPS was .814, third on the team, a little bit behind McNeil. This year, I told you McNeil had an OPS this year of .657. Marte is worse. He's worse. .644. Marte is lower than Vogelback, for the love of God. Oh, it just makes me absolutely sick. Watching this offense. When they're good, they're good, but when they're off, they stink. They're down there with Oakland. It's so bad. And then I'm going to give you another team statistic. Hitting with runners in scoring position. I feel like my entire life, the Mets have struggled to hit and run with runners in scoring position. Last year, they hit .269 with RISP. Okay, they had, I'm actually going to give you the numbers, 374 hits in 1,378 at-bats with runners in scoring position. The 269 average had them 5th in Major League Baseball. One thing the Mets did last year, they weren't power hitters. They were in the middle of the league in terms of home runs, but it seemed so often they got big hits when they needed to do it. This year, none, as LA Knight would say. They are hitting just 250 with runners in scoring position, tied for 19th, tied with teams like the White Sox, Cleveland, teams of that ilk. So their runners with scoring position, it's down about 120 over 120 points. Absolutely horrific. That's number 7. I'm going to give you one more, and I'm going to go to the defense. I feel like so often when you're focused on offense, when you're focused on pitching, defense gets overlooked. And last year, the Mets had a good defense. They were pretty good. They had 67 errors in 162 games. So that is about That's about 0.4 errors per game. So 67 and 162. And Eduardo Escobar was the chief culprit. He had 12 errors last year. Francisco Lindor had 9. Pete Alonso had 8. This year, they have 45 errors in 90 games. So it's like 1 error every other game. Francisco Alvarez has 7, Lindor 6, Brett Beatty 5. I can give Alvarez and Beatty a little bit of grace since they are rookies. But here's the other thing, and it's kind of hard to quantify this with statistics. How many times have we seen the Mets make a dumb base running, taking the extra base when they shouldn't, getting caught off the bag, getting picked off? All those types of mental mistakes, those are not hallmarks of Buck Showalter teams. Buck Showalter has rarely managed teams who are there with the most talented in baseball, but they did all the little things well. They knew when to take the extra base. They could sacrifice bunt. They would make the big defensive plays. This team is not doing that the way they did last year. And all those factors are why the Mets are heading into the All-Star break as one of the biggest laughing stocks in all of Major League Baseball. Can they turn it around? I had a little bit of excitement after that 6-game win streak, and all I wanted was to win the series against San Diego. I would take 5 out of 6 on the road against 2 very good teams. I know San Diego was struggling, but they still have amazing talent, and Arizona was leading the NL West. 5 out of 6. Instead, they lose the last 2 games, and now it feels like the Mets are right back where they were. Just with the not the absolute dregs of the NL. They're not down there with Washington and Colorado, but they are closer to last place than they are first place. And coming into the season, even if you didn't think the Mets had a legitimate chance at winning the World Series, who would have thought they'd be 6, 7, 8 games out of the playoffs in early to mid-July? Just despicable. Well, those are my thoughts on the Mets. I want to see yours. Put them down there in the comments. Don't forget to join me Wednesday night, 9 p.m., Wednesday Night Live with Watch2K99. Maybe I'll yell about the Mets a little bit more. Maybe we'll talk football. Shoot, I might even talk Gold Cup soccer the way things are going. I need something positive to think about that's going on right now. The U.S. is in the semifinal tonight. What the heck? I'll watch. I mean, why not? All right, thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.